It began with words, liberty, equality, the dream of a new world. But the revolution that promised freedom soon devoured its own. France was drowning in chaos, its ideals fading beneath the smoke of war. And in the ashes of Toulon, a young, forgotten Corsican stepped forward to lead a nation out of its own revolution. December 16, 1793. The hills above Toulon burn with the orange reflection of cannon fire. The night air stinks of salt, smoke, and panic. Below, the French port of Toulon, once loyal, now in rebellion, glows like a dying forge. Ships of the British Royal Navy lie anchored in the harbor. A thin figure in a battered officer's coat rides up the muddy path toward the battery lines. His boots are caked with soot, his bicorn hat stained by powder smoke. He is 24 years old. His name is Napoleon Bonaparte, a captain of artillery, and almost no one takes him seriously. Around him, older generals, portly, powdered, scarred from a dozen campaigns, stand over maps illuminated by lantern light. General Jean-François Carteau, a painter by trade before the Revolution, gestures dramatically toward the harbor, his hands flailing like a conductor's. He speaks of grand maneuvers, of glorious charges that will inspire Republican spirit. Bonaparte listens silently, eyes narrowing. He doesn't care about glory. He cares about angles, elevation, and powder charge, about wind direction and terrain, about victory. When Carteau finishes, the young artillery officer steps forward. His Corsican accent grates on their Parisian ears. "General," he says evenly, pointing toward a ridge on the map, "if we take the heights of l'Aiguillette, the English fleet will be forced to withdraw. The harbor's under their guns. Cut off their line of retreat. Toulon falls." There's a pause. Then laughter. Carteau chuckles behind his waxed mustache. "Ah, the little mathematician speaks. Tell me, Captain, will your geometry frighten His Majesty's Navy away?" Another general adds, "Perhaps he'll calculate them into surrender." Bonaparte doesn't respond. He merely stares at the map, eyes fixed, as if memorizing every contour, every slope, every possible range of fire. He's not here to be liked. Hours later, in the freezing dawn, while the generals sleep, Napoleon is already on the ridge. Mud up to his knees, teeth clenched around a piece of bread, he personally oversees the placement of cannon. His coat is soaked, his hands blistered, but he moves like a man possessed. He orders every usable gun dragged from the city walls, some by oxen, some by men, up to the high ground overlooking the harbor. Soldiers grumble, curse, even mock him under their breath. The little Corsican, playing general again. But when the first battery is finally positioned, he steps back, brushes the soot from his gloves, and nods. The guns point directly toward the British fleet's anchorage. At noon, his first volley tears across the bay. The sound splits the air like a whip. Cannonballs shriek through smoke, smashing into the hull of a British frigate. Another round follows, then another. Within minutes, one of the English ships is aflame, the sea around it boiling with debris. In the distance, a lookout cries, "The English are cutting anchor!" Suddenly, no one is laughing. Carteau arrives, pale and breathless, watching the scene unfold through his spyglass. The young artilleryman, covered in grime, salutes curtly. "Captain Bonaparte reporting, sir." The enemy seems discouraged. The older general lowers his glass, stunned. The entire British line is shifting, slowly, unmistakably, out of range. In a single afternoon, the nobody from Corsica had turned the tide of the siege. But he isn't finished yet. That night, as Toulon burns and the last enemy ships withdraw under cover of smoke, Bonaparte stands alone by his guns, staring at the city below. The wind carries the distant screams of retreating loyalists. The tricolor flag of the Republic rises where royalist banners once flew. For the first time, the young officer feels the pull of destiny, sharp, electric, almost terrifying. Behind him, one of his sergeants murmurs, "Captain, what now?" Bonaparte's eyes don't move from the flames. "Now," he says quietly. "We finished the job." He doesn't know it yet, but this victory will change everything: his rank, his reputation, his future. And before dawn breaks again, he'll do something that makes even his enemies whisper his name with fear. Midnight, December 17th, 1793. The French batteries above Toulon are alive with movement. Snow mixes with smoke in the cold night air. Torches flicker between black silhouettes of exhausted soldiers dragging ammunition crates through the mud. The guns, dozens of them, stand silent for now, their bronze barrels glinting faintly in the moonlight. Captain Napoleon Bonaparte paces behind them like a wolf in a cage. He's been awake for 2 days straight. His uniform is stiff with sweat and powder. Every few minutes, he lifts his spyglass and studies the harbor below. The British and their Spanish allies still occupy the port, guarding the royalist French who betrayed the Republic. Warships float like dark monsters in the bay. If they escape, the revolution loses its foothold in the south. A young lieutenant stumbles toward him through the mud. "Captain, orders from General Dugommier. The attack begins at dawn." Napoleon lowers the glass. His eyes gleam with something fierce and certain. "Now." He raises his hand. A single fuse hisses in the dark. Then another. Then a dozen. The night explodes. A thunderclap rolls across the hills as the first volley screams toward the harbor. Cannonballs rip through the air, smashing into the British batteries at Fort Mulgrave. The ground shakes with each impact. Men shout, scramble, return fire, but Bonaparte's guns are relentless, methodical, precise. He moves among them fearlessly, adjusting elevation, sighting targets, shouting corrections through the smoke. Powder flashes illuminate his face, calm, focused, alive. A musket ball tears through his coat. He doesn't flinch. Around him, French gunners cheer as the enemy fortress begins to crumble. The once proud British redoubt, called Little Gibraltar for its supposed invincibility, erupts in fire and screams. At one point, a cannon jams. The crew panics. Napoleon rushes over, seizes a ramrod, and clears the barrel himself, his hands black with soot. "Reload," he barks. "Every second they breathe, they live." By dawn, Fort Mulgrave is a ruin. The Republican flag rises over its shattered walls. From this new vantage point, Bonaparte orders his heaviest guns turned toward the harbor. When the next bombardment begins, the British fleet has nowhere to hide. Cannonballs crash through decks, masts splinter, one ship after another catches fire. The harbor becomes a graveyard of burning timber and black smoke. Standing beside his guns, Bonaparte watches the flames spread. For a brief moment, he almost smiles. Down below, the enemy fleet signals retreat. The British admiral orders the evacuation. Loyalists, royalists, sailors, they all scramble to flee the doomed city. The siege of Toulon is over. But the victory is not without cost. As Bonaparte moves forward to inspect the captured positions, a musket shot slams into his thigh. He collapses, blood soaking through his boot. His men rush to him. "Captain, you're hit!" He grits his teeth, waves them off. "It's nothing." Keep the guns firing. They obey, not because of rank, but because of the force of his will. By the time the smoke clears, Toulon lies in ruins. The Republic has triumphed. And every general who once mocked the young artilleryman now whispers his name with awe and a little fear. Word spreads quickly through France. The Corsican did it. Within weeks, Captain Bonaparte becomes Brigadier General Bonaparte at just 24. But power is a double-edged blade. And even as his star rises, others begin to see him not as a savior, but as a threat. Toulon was won. But for Bonaparte, this was only the beginning. The Republic had found its sword, and soon the world would feel its edge.